Hello, you're listening to a Heroes Welcome, episode 16. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Wes. I'm here with Andrew.
And we're talking all about D.Va today in our character summary. I know you've been waiting to talk about D.Va for some time.
Yeah, our strategy's about D.Va, fan favorite, like her a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I really like her character. Her kit just really got reworked. We talked about it in the previous episodes, but I don't play her that much, but I think since it changes, I'm going to start playing her a lot more, hopefully.
Yeah, so we'll be talking a lot about her. We also have tons of things to cover in the competitive scene, a lot of things going on. You know, some new organizations in the scene, some, roster changes, the usual, and a lot of news as well.
Yeah, tons of new news, a lot of different stuff coming out, so definitely...
So let's start the news.
Get right into the news. So first big thing to talk about today is the Summer Games seasonal event. Started August 2nd. It's going to be going through till the 22nd. Definitely a very interesting little add-in to the game. Have you got a chance to really check it out?
I dabbled in it a little bit. It's kind of interesting, right after we finished recording our last show, we do it kind of Mondays and Tuesday hit and all this new stuff,
Yeah, a lot of new stuff coming out.
So it's kind of like old news now, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Obviously, tons of new cosmetic items, skins and sprays and all the like.
Yeah, about 100 new cosmetic items, tons of new stuff to check out. Seasonal loot boxes specifically just for those items. Each loot box guaranteed to at least contain one of the seasonal items, which is cool. You always guaranteed to get something new.
Yes, it's interesting to see the loot box because one of the things I was questioning, when the game first came out was how they're going to have a revenue, like a steady revenue, and this seems like a good model for it, right? You have these specific loot boxes and they're going to come out and, limited time kind of content kind of thing. I mean, some people might not like it very much, but...
Yeah, I mean, there was a big hoopla over it because of the way that it's being released, and Blizzard specifically said, I think Kaplan came out and talked about it, that, some things they want to give to everybody have a chance to gain, the same things across the board, but there's a lot of stuff that they're trying to keep really unique and special to certain people, and this is one of those things where it's a seasonal event. They already said if it does well, it's definitely going to come around next year. You'll have a chance to get the same items again and probably some additional items, but they don't want everybody to have every item. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of feeling cool. You got this special item. You don't want everybody else running around with it. So I agree with it. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be best if maybe you could purchase them, with the credits.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an option. I mean, they can definitely go that route. But again, they don't want everybody to just plop down their saved up currency for all the new items and just have everything.
For a limited time. See, I would have waited to hit 100, and sat on it for a long time knowing I'm going to get a bunch of loot boxes. But, things happen. But yeah, this is the first seasonal event. We'll probably see many more seasonal events to come. And it's a bunch of new content in the game. How can you complain about that?
Right. I mean, a lot of new content. It's really cool to see them just continually just bringing in new content. And, I mean, it looks really good. So
yeah, so let's talk about the Lucioball Brawl. I've never done a brawl since the game come out. I played them, in the betas and stuff. But I actually never... once they add an incentive, a loot box here and there, I'll probably start doing them. But yeah. Have you tried it out? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely tried out the Lucioball, and I've done some brawls in the past. I don't do a whole lot of them, but I checked it out when, Anna was released. They had a brawl specifically for Anna, which is really cool to kind of check her out and stuff. But yeah, the Lucioball, it's pretty fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I played a few games of it. It's definitely an interesting way to kind of use Lucio and play on the whole soccer thing. I had a lot of fun doing it, but it's not something you do a lot. That's why I think it works perfect with the seasonal.
Yeah, for people who haven't checked it out, it's pretty much like Rocket League, but you're all Lucios and you use your right-click bump to move a ball and score a goal.
Right, so you left-click punches the ball, right-click, boops the ball, and then you're able to speed boost, and you can actually ride on the walls and such, and you can jump. There's certain areas mapped out where you can jump really high and stuff, so... yeah, it's really cool. I liked it, so it's cool.
To me, it's interesting to see the different, scenarios they could play out in the brawls. It's really good tests, but just to see what they could do in the engine, different ways to play the game, and, eventually features and stuff like that might come to the real game.
Yeah, I mean, they've said in the past many times that that's their perfect testing ground for them to test out new game modes, new ideas, and that such, and I love that idea. I love the fact that they have something totally organic they can put in the game and test it right away. So,
all right, was there anything else about the Lúcioball you want to talk about?
I mean, just basically, the basic abilities like we talked about. I think the only one we didn't say was the ultimate. You can use his ultimate, and it automatically brings the ball towards you and such, so you can use that to either save or to get a goal and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, you still have some time. Go check it out. Have some fun.
Right, so it's from the 2nd to the 22nd.
2nd to the 22nd, it'll be in there. So.
All right, so let's talk about Kaplan letting us know that limited edition cosmetics are coming, season events. Well, we talked a little bit about it, right? How they're supposed to feel special.
Right. So it's just basically Kaplan talking about, more season events coming soon. They like the idea of doing stuff special. I mean, they talked about it in all their other games. Blizzard does seasonal events, and they love doing them. And so they're going to see many more of those come around, and they're definitely like the idea of having things kept real fresh and rare for people. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing that changes the game, right? No advantages being given out, so...
All purely cosmetic, and so, I mean, that's great for us. I mean, even me, like I mentioned in the past, I'm not even crazy about all these cosmetics. It doesn't really do anything for me, but I love the idea of the way they do this and allow people to feel special. It's one of my biggest gripes about certain games is that, they give everybody the same gear, the same look, the same, everything, and then it's just all homogenized, so...
Okay, so you like people looking different, but personally, you're not really... going and trying to get on all the things.
No, I like to just acquire them as I go, and then I just, use them that way. But I don't spend a lot of time, going out there and just specifically trying to get them. But
all right. Well, let's, in other news with Kaplan. So he's talking about how there's no plans to add a surrender function. You have feelings on that?
Yeah, so I just kind of put this in here as an aside because I know I actually had mentioned it previously, just the fact that with the time bank system, which are seen to going all in with the time bank system, which is really great, and I think it works really well, getting rid of, the asynchronous, options with the game and stuff like that. But just sometimes you feel like you can get stuck in a really bad situation where you're doing the time bank system, you're playing multiple runs with the same team against the same enemy composition, and you feel like you're definitely on the losing side of things. So I don't know what your thought of that is, but they specifically mentioned that they don't want to do a surrender function because of certain reasons, and my only thought on that was basically, obviously, you'd have to make sure that it's not being abused in any way, but that otherwise there's not really, any reason why they can't.
Yeah, I don't think this game needs a surrender function. The games are very short, and it could turn at the last minute. Yeah,
I mean, it definitely can, and I see why they don't want to. Like I said, it's just something that I kind of put in there. It's not something that needs to happen or needs to happen anytime soon. But, I mean, I think if you did it where it was a unanimous decision across the board, it could be something that they could look into. But
I think, make improvements to the matchmaker, which equals better quality matches, and then you won't need a surrender function.
Yeah, but I mean, the matchmaker, there's always going to be situations where you feel like you're on the wrong side of the coin there, and so I don't know. It just seems like something that they can consider, but
I just think like what games would I have surrendered? I'm thinking back in my past. Is there any games I would have surrendered? No.
Well, that's exactly why I mentioned it, because there's definitely games that I would have surrendered, both in my my previous placement matches and such, where I got into matches that were just like completely one-sided, but because of the time bank system, I was in multiple matches with the same setup, and it was just pretty terrible. But
yeah, I've had really good quality matches, even in quick match. The MMR is pretty good, and nothing really matters. A quick match is there to practice,
Right. I mean, definitely, like I said, this is something totally off the wall. Like, there's definitely far more things that are important that they need to look into. I just thought it was interesting that they came out specifically said that they do not want to add a surrender function. So, just something that I thought about. But
yeah, I'm on board for that. And so they're talking about making steps to even shorten games, even next season.
Yeah, so they specifically said before, as soon as they launched competitive mode, that they right away started with the coin flip, and then they said that they're basically going to be going all in with the time bank system. And now that they're even able to get even more data back from that, they think they can kind of refine it a little bit and make things even shorter. So that's kind of one of the reasons why they mentioned not doing the surrenders. Like you said, they're already short as it is, and they're probably going to get shorter in Season 2. So
okay, but if they go from the coin flip to the time bank, like on Gibraltar and stuff, that's probably gonna make the games longer, right?
You would think, but if the thing is since they're reducing the amount of time to say attack in certain situations, that with the time bank system, if you're completely far apart in skill, then obviously the games will end much quicker. So
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to season 2 to see what's going to happen there.
Right, so something a lot of people have been talking about recently is stealth characters.
Yeah, so they had this big thing about data mining, and a lot of people finding out that there are voice lines and such, basically alluding to the fact that we might be seeing a stealth character. And I know specifically when Genji was originally announced, they talked about him. He was originally designed to be a stealth character, but it just really felt really bad, playing against a Genji. So definitely something that they talked about, stealth characters and how they might possibly do that in the future.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see the process. I mean, I'm really interested in stuff like that. So when they first made Genji, they were going to make him a melee character. We only see him with the sword when he ults now, but before he just always had his sword out. And it's really, I would imagine it's really hard to balance. Like if you just open up on someone from stealth, then you're either going to be overpowered and they're going to die, or you're going to be underpowered and just be tickling the person.
And that is exactly the problem that they had. And it's really funny because when they first mentioned that, and I first got a chance to play the game, I really gravitated right toward Genji, and I really like him as a character. But my first initial thought with the his regular shurikens was that it would have felt so much cooler to be using the sword constantly. But I mean, you got to understand, like you said, that's the exact reason why they didn't go that way. Is it's just way too polarized. You're either super strong or super weak, and then on top of that, then everybody else feels like they have to counter that. So
yeah, you don't want to fall in the pit of like trying to do all the things at all the games. It's an FPS at heart. Projectiles and hit scans of what you'd be familiar with. So bringing in other concepts from other genres work. We've seen that work really well, but you don't want to get in a place where you're trying to do all the things and then just a cluster.
Yeah, you always have to keep the original game in mind, and the play of the game and how you want things to function. So like I said, that was my initial perspective on him, but as I play him more, I really like Genji and how he plays, so I'm happy they went the way that they did.
So do you want a stealth character?
That is a really hard question. It really depends on a lot of things. I love the idea of stealth. I play a lot of stealth characters in other games, but again, you still have that factor of when you're stealth, how does that work? Is it a permanent stealth? It's probably not going to be a permanent stealth in a game like this. How's the stealth going to work? Are the other players able to see you? There's so many questions to answer with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the idea of stealth, but it would definitely have to be a certain way. Like perma-stealth probably won't be able to exist whatsoever. I'm thinking maybe having some sort of visual cue. Maybe there's like a distance where you actually see a shimmer. Obviously, if you shoot them or if you do an AoE spell or something, it'll probably get them out of stealth. It's most likely, probably not like an ultimate thing, but maybe, I don't know, just maybe like an ability usable. And maybe you could like make other people invisible too. Like very temporary,
Right. I mean, it could be like a temporary, just a short cooldown burst where you're able to go invisible and, relocate or something like that. Almost.
Because all the voice lines, they aren't particular to like a certain character. They're very vague.
They're very
so like
vague
anybody.
Yeah.
So if you, like a stealth Zarya or something like that, that potentially could be a thing, right?
Right, that, or it's just that they don't want to give away too much with it. I mean, I don't know how much people were able to data mine, but like you said, they're all very generic things, just alluding to the fact of someone that they can't see. So
yeah, maybe just like a defense character or something, or maybe even a tank. I don't know. Just like make a friendly stealth for a few seconds.
Yeah,
it's like an invulnerability. It's like an ice block or something, but it's just stealth.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely super interesting thought. Different, very different. So, well, definitely looking forward to see what they come up with that. So,
all right, so let's change gears now into the competitive mode.
So season 1 is coming to an end pretty soon here, guys. You do have a little bit of time left, but it's actually going to be ending on the 17th of August at about 5 p.m. So it was launched June 28th. Season 2, they already have kind of a soft date, September 6th, that it's obviously subject to change depending on a lot of different things. But so we got to actually see the skill point breakdown.
Yeah, so I was trying to hop right into the competitive esports talk, but yeah, so the competitive mode, we did learn that season 1's coming to an end, right? And we did learn a while back that there's going to be like a bulk amount of reward of skill points at the end of the season, and we got the exact breakdown of what that looks like. We'll put it in the show notes, but pretty much it goes anywhere from, if you're 39, remember this is the highest you've achieved of the whole season, so even if you went up and came back down, so it counts your highest achieved for the whole season. So It goes anywhere from 10 competitive points all the way to 300. So, if your 39 was the best you've achieved, you only get 10. That's the least amount you could get. And, ranges, if you're in the 50, 52, you're getting about 60, 80, somewhere in the middle, 40, 60, 80. And 65 is the cap. So if you're 65 or higher, you get 300. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. It probably was.
Yeah, we'll have it in the show notes so you can take a look at it. I mean, you can find it on a lot of different websites as well. But it's cool that they actually finally released that as we're getting to the end to be able to see what we're expected to get. So kind of you have a little bit of time if you need to grind out some extra points maybe to get that first
See, I don't have an
gun.
incentive to grind out new points. I'm the best ranking in the game, 69. And I get the most amount, 300.
Well, you can still acquire
69 is
points.
obviously the best.
I mean, if you need points to be able to get the golden gun, but if you're at the highest, you don't really need to. But
300 is the exact amount for a golden gun.
Right, exactly. So
I think I'm gonna get golden balls. Zenyatta, I've been playing him, man. He's the best.
Yeah, Zenyatta's been a lot of fun. I love playing.
When
Zenyatta,
you reload, they spin real quick, and he has a bunch of cool balls, all the different skins.
Yeah, Zenyatta's definitely cool. I enjoy playing a lot of Zenyatta. So. Again, they are reevaluating some of the skill differentials for Season 2 for the restrictions. Is one of the things that I thought was super weird. They had a pretty open skill differential, basically anybody being able to play with anybody. It just seemed really weird to me. I don't know what your thoughts were on that, but I'm happy that they're actually looking to changing the restrictions for that.
So as far as I understand, Season 1, as long as you're within 50 skill ratings, in your group, you're able to queue together, but you have to understand, that's 30 to 80. That's 99% of every person who plays the game.
Right. So, yeah, you've seen a lot of people with really low teammates just taking them into high ratings and just pulling them along. It was really weird. So, I'm definitely...
And that's bad for the other people on that team because they don't get enough points, potential.
Yeah, and then obviously having even just one person who's super low is very bad, so... Definitely glad that they're going to be looking at that, so we'll see what they decide to go with later. But another thing to really talk about is that they're actually looking into adding more statistics and such for the spectator modes in competitive, specifically, obviously, for esports, which is awesome. I'm glad that they're doing that because I think we talked about that in previous episodes, that they definitely need to take a hard look at the spectator mode is one of the things they need to work on.
Yeah, I mean, making a better viewer experience is going to be very profitable for Blizzard, and once the game is in a really good state, which I would say it is, you get to put more time and effort into spectator, and it's going to go a long way. It just has statistics, just on the fly to be able to have that, the casters give them something to talk about, something to think about. And,
I mean, I think it engages the audience in a different way as well, because they're able to relay those statistics to the audience, and the people can actually really see in real time what's going on. Especially with a game like this, there's a lot of stuff going on. Not everybody gets everything all the time. Every character is different, so you can't just look at one character and say, oh, this person's the most eliminations, or this person's got the most healing. That doesn't really tell you the full story. So.
Right, so let's talk about levers. We talk about levers a lot. So the lever penalty should become more aggressive in Season 2?
Definitely looking forward to that. I like I said, I'm of the mind it can't be aggressive enough. So,
are you seeing levers?
I haven't seen a lot lately, but I still think that I still see them every now and again. So it's definitely something that can always be more aggressive.
It's really, really, really rare for me.
Yeah, I mean, at my ranking, I'm still seeing levers, so definitely looking forward to that changing as well.
And also the 10-minute penalty. We talked about that.
Right. So recent patch, they kind of included a little 10-minute penalty for levers. So if you leave in competitive play, aside from the other penalties, you'll get a 10-minute cooldown, basically, so that you can't play. So, which is kind of... It's a little rough, but I mean, I guess if you leave, it is what it is, So yeah, they just they don't want people backfilling into other games, so it's just kind of a way to keep people from leaving. So I look forward to the changes. We'll see what they decide to do in Season 2.
Yeah, and I think it'll get better over time. I don't know. I never really had a problem with it. When it first came out, there was a big problem. Your placement matches and stuff, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like I said, at the higher rankings, you maybe not see it all the time, just because I think at the higher rankings, people are there to play and to get that ranking and to keep that place. But I think in the lower rankings, a lot of people, they get into a group and they just feel like they're in a really bad team and they just want to get out of there quickly. I don't know. So
they can't forfeit.
Yeah, they can't forfeit yet, so we'll see. But definitely looking forward to what they decide to do. So jumping right into the competitive now, Overwatch announced the World Cup for BlizzCon 2016. Pretty exciting news. Was not expecting anything to come out this year. I don't know what your opinion on that was, but
well, it's nice to know what they're going to do for BlizzCon, right? So the tickets sold way back in April, so people, I mean, it's not going to convince them to, attend BlizzCon now since the tickets sold a long time ago. But it's nice now to know what they're going to be doing for Overwatch. I was worried for a while if they're going to do anything really, because they can't have a proper tournament, right, that takes place over the whole year, then have the whole grand finals at the end like they do in their other games, World of Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, kind of cutting it real short, but yeah, like I said, I wasn't expecting anything, so I'm glad to see that they're doing something, and I thought it was interesting the way that they decided to do that. So we have a little breakdown on the schedule for the Road to BlizzCon for Overwatch. So it's kind of a two-phase program. So you have step one, you're able to vote for your teams. So they're going to actually be announcing coming pretty soon here, just distinguished players and such that you'll be actually able to vote for. There'll be anything from programmers to just skilled community personalities, local players who've, done really well in the ranking in Season 1, and that will be starting on August 11th. And each region will be able to vote for their nominees specifically to their region, wherever their game is registered.
Yeah, so we'll definitely put a link in the show notes because there's a lot to talk about and it could kind of get confusing, right? But yeah, so it's kind of like, multiple phases, and it's not going to be a proper tournament, right? So it's kind of just there's no prize money. They'll get flown out to BlizzCon. That's a pretty good prize.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But there will not be any actual money prize. It's just kind of their first event that they're going to launch, and they want to showcase Overwatch on the grand stage. So just really cool to see them doing that. So
I guess August 11th is when the voting will begin.
Yeah, August 11th voting will begin, and they'll actually release info on the distinguished players, so you actually get to see some of their little breakdowns, their favorite heroes, their rankings, and that such will be able to vote, be available for voters to see.
Right, and there's a bunch of regions. They have them all listed, but there's probably 30 plus different regions. So they're going to cover the whole globe.
Right, basically the whole globe. It's all the way from North America to the APAC and all that. So they'll have everything listed. One thing to definitely note is that you must have an Overwatch game license to participate in the voting as well. So wherever your Battle.net is registered, that's where you'll be able to vote for.
You probably need a game license to participate at BlizzCon.
Oh yeah, you definitely need one to participate either way, whether you're just voting or actually participating at BlizzCon. But
right, so your favorite teams, your favorite players, I'm sure they'll definitely want you voting for them.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to have it listed. We'll definitely keep you updated with all the information. So definitely check into that. So phase 2 is when the expedition will actually begin. So that is starting sometime in September. They haven't released the exact date yet. And the teams will actually be put together based off of the voting, and they'll put together a team, and then they will take part in a best of 3 single elimination online qualifier. So it'll all be online. I'm sure they'll give us information on where you can watch that coming up pretty soon here.
Right, and eventually they'll whittle it down to 16 teams, like you said, the online qualifiers, and I'm pretty excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. It's something a little bit different, and what I'm expecting is Blizzard to have a full plan for the next following year, right? And have a proper world championship and everything. But when you release a game in the middle of the year, it takes so much time and effort to do these things. It's just a time thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, they spent so much time, just iterating and adding things to the game, listening to feedback that, it was kind of cut it short to kind of provide an actual full tournament. So I was really happy to see them put this together. It's looking really good. Can't wait till BlizzCon. I get to watch it and see what's going to happen there. Obviously it's always exciting when there's money on the line, but even without money on the line, it'd be cool to see some of my favorite players out there duking it out. So
right, it should be very entertaining. And last BlizzCon, the most exciting thing for me was Heroes of the Storm, and I had a really good time. But I imagine it's going to be even much better with Overwatch.
Yeah, I think Overwatch just is going to be really, really fun to watch on the big stage. So definitely looking forward to that.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about the ESL Atlantic Showdown. The main event's going to be August 20 to 21st. That's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up real close here. It's been a little bit of a road, but we're finally getting there. So the NA final qualifiers, we got listed Envy, Cloud9, Fnatic, and Team Solo Mid, all advancing to the finals for the main event. And then we got EU side, we got Misfits, Reunited, Creation, and Rogue all advancing. So definitely no real surprise there. The mainstays are all going to be there. So definitely looking forward to seeing them in Germany. So.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll have great games. We'll be covering that pretty closely. Pretty much the best teams in the world. And it's also good to note that ESL has some other tournaments as well. Smaller little things they're doing on the side. But it's nice to see, all these tournaments, places for the big teams to compete, places for, up-and-coming teams. It's pretty healthy. So.
I mean, it's crazy to imagine that the game just came out not too long ago and that we've seen all this happening so quickly. And it's really all happening from everywhere and every angle. So it's just amazing to see. So.
All right, so keep out a look on the ESL. You have a couple weeks away. It's going to be the big event, $100,000. Overwatch Open, which trumped that $300,000 prize pool coming up. They're still doing the qualifying, so they're very early on. It is an open tournament. It's called Overwatch Open. It is open. They have hundreds of teams signing up for this, and so they're still early on in the qualifying. I watched some games earlier. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they're still doing the EU qualifier number 3 actually finished up. NA is still doing their qualifier as we speak right now. So out of the number 3 qualifier for EU, we got Reunited taking it 3-0 versus Luminosity Gaming. So that was a really good game. I watched it. I thought it was a really good game. So
yeah, that's the game I caught most of too. And some pretty good plays. I saw some reflecting of Zarya ult. That's pretty good.
It's always fun when you can reflect an ult like that, especially Zarya. We've seen a lot of Zarya as of late, and she's been really, really dominant.
It's kind of funny to see the casters get tripped up because they're like, oh, there's a Zarya on one team, but what happened? That was a bad Zarya ult.
Yes, yeah. Not so much a bad Zarya ult as it was a really good reflect, but that's top-notch play we expect to see. So.
Right, yeah. So there's also the... news that LG signs a brand new roster, right? So Luminosity Gaming, pretty prominent. We see them a lot. So what happened is they just picked up a whole new roster. So the team that used to be Too Strong, now they're under the LG banner.
Yep, so a whole new roster for LG. Looking forward to seeing how they're going to fare. Too Strong did pretty good as of recently, and I guess they're planning to relocate to the U.S. as of currently.
So we've seen that in other teams as well. It's a trend, but... hey, I'm happy to welcome in.
Yeah, I mean, any new teams, it's just awesome to see people coming into this game and just showing us different skills all across the board. So it's interesting to see. So.
Yeah, so you might be asking, if they sign a brand new roster, then where did the old roster go?
So, Wesley, where did the old roster go?
Right, so NRG is a team a lot of people are probably familiar with. They are involved in other games as well. They signed Mix-Up, formerly Luminosity Gaming. Yeah,
so the old LG roster actually went and signed with NRG. Their sign up was over, and they actually signed with NRG, and so Luminosity Gaming then went and picked up Too Strong. So a little bit of a shift there of rosters. So.
Right, and a lot of people like to point out that NRG is owned and somewhat, invested by some famous people in the sports.
Some famous people. I'm not sure which famous people, but I'm sure you can find it out there on the.
I know Shaquille O'Neal's one. I know there's some guy in the hockey. I don't know traditional sports at all.
Yeah, so.
But I know he plays basketball.
Right, so Shaq is an investor. He has been an investor since this year. A couple other people investing as well. And the founder is actually pretty prominent too. I forget his name, but you can find it out there on the interweb, I'm sure.
Yeah, so there's former Luminosity Gaming that includes Pook, Seagull, Milo, Enigma, Gods, and Dummy. And it's a pretty strong roster.
Oh, yeah. I've been watching them for quite a while, so I'm hoping we see a lot more out of them. But Seagull, always amazing to watch. Milo, really good. And Gods really has kind of been shining for them as of lately. When the last patch was going on, when they had that nerf to McCree and such, Gods was doing amazing work on that Soldier 76. So looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, I like Milo. I just don't like him when he's on the opposing team in the competitive matches.
Yeah, you don't like playing against Milo.
Yeah, I like the pros to be on my team.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen.
It's always nice.
That much. All right, so let's move on. Method signs One Shot.
Right. So originally one shot all the way back in the beta was actually 2 Arc, and they kind of ended up signing 2 Arc. And then right soon after, they kind of split up and reformed. The two main members from One Shot reformed a whole new team. And so they actually were signed to Method just recently. And they've been really, really good as of recently. 27 wins, only 16 losses. They were ranked 10th in the NA and 22nd in the world. So that's Psycho Waffle, Rolf, Chronic, XI, and Ultimate Weapon. So looking forward to seeing more of them. Hopefully we get to see them play.
Yeah, right. I remember seeing them more in the earlier beta phases. I haven't seen much of them, but definitely looking forward. Just to hear new organizations and stuff making their way to Overwatch. The more the merrier, and it's only going to be better for the game as a whole.
Right. So Method, another big one, kind of jumping into Overwatch. So.
Right. And Team Liquid welcomed 2 new players. They've been kind of in a limbo state where they're trying to get a roster I think they're really happy with.
Right. So, I mean, even despite the fact, they've still done pretty well for themselves. We've seen them go up against some of the big names in Cloud9 and such, and still able to do really well. But they're still kind of refining their roster and figuring out where they kind of sit. So they picked up Menstrual and ID. So 2 really big names we've been watching. They kind of moved around a lot, all the way back from Team Hubris and even to Envious, and now currently on Liquid. So definitely looking forward to seeing what they can do. I'm sure they're going to bring some strong play to Liquid, and I'm sure we will see a lot more of them in the future.
Yeah, because Liquid's a pretty prominent team, and I believe they're still looking for one other person, and hopefully maybe that could be you. Right, your listeners, go apply, yeah.
Right, go apply, go check it out. So maybe we'll be watching you playing for the blue Team Liquid. So
right, and one more team making their
a lot of team roster changes and advents to the game. So
yeah, but brand new organizations. The organization is brand new, but they're making their way to Overwatch is so good, and included in that is NIP Ninjas in Pajamas.
Awesome name. Love the name. So. Definitely looking forward to seeing what they bring. So they actually signed SG1, the Finnish team. So we'll see what they can do.
I'm hoping for some good competition on the European side.
Oh, yeah, definitely looking forward to that for sure.
All right, so let's get into her character summary. Strategy is all about D.Va. And she's a pretty unique character, right? She has the mech, suit. She's a pilot, unique. Little baby D.Va.
Very unique and a very fun character to play. She's very different, especially as a tank. She doesn't play like a normal tank in a lot of situations. She moves around quite a bit for a tank. And I know we just talked about previously, her whole kit just kind of got reworked, especially her defense matrix. So
it's a perfect time to talk about her. Obviously, she's a tank. She's in a big mech. 500 health, 400 armor, 400, she has 500 health, but 400 of that is armor.
Right, so that is when she's in her mech, so a total of 500 with 400 of that being armor, and when you're not in the mech, when you're just her little D.Va pilot self, you're 150, so.
Right, but she can be deadly, so
yeah,
watch out for her.
And we're going to actually talk about that. She has a lot of uses, actually, when she's still in her pilot, so.
Right, so let's start with the mech form, because that's how you start in the game, right? So you have these fusion cannons, pretty strong. They better at closer range.
Yeah, they're better at closer to mid-range, not so great at far range. The spread is really kind of wide, so you definitely don't want to be firing from far away, and they really slow you down. You're not able to move while you're firing them, so definitely keep in mind how you're using those. Right,
so your movement speed is reduced when you are shooting. It does about 24 damage, and that's if all the little things, all the little pellets will hit. There's obviously fall-off damage. 7 rounds per second, and you have to be pretty close with her, and she moves slow when she's firing, but she has ways to get close to the enemy.
Right, so she has a little bit of a kit. Like we said, she's definitely moves around a lot more than some of the other tanks. So next thing to kind of talk about is her defense matrix, is her now bound to her right mouse. It used to be her E ability. Now it's totally been reworked. So
E does nothing.
E doesn't do anything on her anymore. So right mouse button, you're able to hold it down as a channel ability. So you kind of just push the right mouse, you hold it down. From empty to full, it's about 10 seconds to completely recharge it. And when it's full to empty, it's only about 4 seconds for the total use of it. It's got about a 1 second cooldown. So you're able to use it within 1 second of reusing the ability. It's just you have to wait, if it's completely empty, about 10 seconds to fill it all the way back up.
Yeah, so it's just like a Pharaoh's jetpack, right? So you have a little meter right there in the same location that lets you know how much of a charge you have. And it has a 1 second cooldown, so you can't just spam it on, off, on, off, on, off. When you're a tracer, you see it get thrown up, and then, it comes off, then you could shoot and unload your whole clip. without them being able to matrix it again.
Right, but again, having it reworked, I mean, the way they had it before, it was just an ability you toggle on, and then that was it, you said, and forget it. But the unfortunate part about that is, once people see you toggle it on, unless you cancel it, which either way you're wasting the ability, then they know right away that you're not going to be able to use it for that whole cooldown length. Now it's been reworked, so now you only have a 1 second window that they can actually attack you before you're able to put it up. So definitely a lot better than what it was.
It's a game changer for her. Definitely, probably the one change that makes her, viable now, much more viable. And it's strong because you could do a lot of strategic things with it, but it's also counterable because it has a 1 second cooldown. So if you're Zarya and you just saw the matrix go down, you could throw your ult safely, things like that. So let's talk about the boosters in her mech. It's going to be a default PC on a shift key. It lasts 2 seconds. It does actually do damage, right? So it does 25 damage. There's a little knockback. You can knock them back in a pit or something. Environmental deaths are very fun. And you're able to travel about 25 meters. It has a 5 second cooldown. But it's important to know that you could get verticality on this, right? So you could fly in any direction.
Right,
and
so
disrupt people.
It's really her ability to get in and out of places. It has a pretty short, it's only a 5 second cooldown, so you're able to move around quite often with her. And again, like you mentioned, the verticality is definitely key because she's a really good counter to a lot of characters, such as like Widowmaker, Pharah, such like that, where she's able to actually get to them and actually take them out.
Right, and that mobility that she has, her and Winston are kind of like the tanks that have a ton of mobility, and that's what makes them strong, especially in certain maps. You're talking about Gibraltar, you're talking about maps where it's very important to get that high ground, and these tanks are able to do that even if you're attacking, without setup.
Yeah, so they're definitely the two that have a lot of mobility as opposed to the others. So they play a lot differently in that respect. So you're actually able to move around and actually counter people rather than just standing there like a big meat shield with a target on your back. So,
right, let's talk about our self-destruct. This got changed recently as well. We covered the changes, but we'll go over it again, right? So the cast time is 3 seconds. It used to be 4. So the detonation, pretty much what happens, everyone's seen it, right? The D.Va hops out, and the thing explodes. There's a big exclamation point, right? So it's a little bit faster now, the explosion. You gotta be careful. One of the mistakes I made was I used to launch my mech so high in the air because it took so long to explode, but now you can't really do that because if it explodes too high, then, the AoE is not really close to people. And
right, so you can definitely still do the fling. You still launch it. You just basically use your boosters and then eject, and you're able to launch out of it. But you just don't want to throw it too far or too high. It's only got 3 seconds to explode now, so definitely something to keep in mind. But it does do about 1,000 damage, depending on fall off and such, to the enemies. It doesn't actually damage you anymore as D.Va, so you're completely safe. You don't have to worry about that. But it's one of the highest damage ults in the game.
Right, and it's got very good ability to clear areas, right, to get that space that you need, and
it's a pretty big AoE, so you're able to put it right on either the payload or the point on the map, and you're able to just kind of clear it out for that time being. So
yeah, but the important thing to point out is you line of sight, right? You pretty much you run for cover, and just the smallest, skinniest little obstacles will block the mech blasts. So watch out for those.
Yeah, definitely. If you hear the mech coming, you get out of there real quick. You only got 3 seconds. Used to be 4 seconds. You're able to kind of have a chance to react to it, but now you really kind of got to get it in gear and move.
Especially if you're using it with other abilities like Zarya ultimate, or like even just a wall from a Mei or something. It can be pretty difficult.
Yeah, it can definitely be pretty devastating. So yeah.
So if your mech gets destroyed, right, all of your 500 health. You don't die, you go to the graveyard, right? You become a little pilot D.Va with her gun with a little bunny on it. So cute.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a whole nother, it's her pilot form. She just has her basic light gun weapon. It's her primary fire, her left mouse. Has about 20 ammo. It's about 6 rate of fire and about 14 damage, and it is able to headshot. But it's a very interesting gun. You're actually able to kind of sling the bullets around the way they fly. They fly kind of slow, so it can kind of catch people off guard because they do fly slow, but because of the movement you're able to give them, you can actually kind of snake with them and kind of just pump them down the middle until you're waiting to get your ult back.
Right, yeah. It's kind of similar to Mercy's pistol, right? The travel speed is on the slower side, but could definitely do a ton of damage. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the fall off on is pretty good too. You know, if you hit someone far away, it still does a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, it does. It does a lot of damage even from far away, and that's kind of one of the things where it's like, you know, a lot of people right away they just want to hop right back in the mech suit, but actually, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit, but she actually has some use while in her pilot form, so you can actually, if you're not the target, if you're not being targeted and such, you're able to actually do some damage and kind of keep out of sight. So, you know, something to keep in mind. You don't always want to just jump right back in your mech suit.
Right, and it's also important to point out that when you're in your mech, your ultimate charge is charging up a self-destruct, and when you're in pilot form, you can't self-destruct, obviously, so the ultimate turns into calling your mech. There is a 2-second like cast that you're kind of vulnerable. You can die in that if you're taking lots of damage, but you usually could be pretty safe about it, and
yeah, it does about 50 damage to AoE. Anybody who's right there when you call your mech, that it will land on them and actually do a little bit of AoE damage as well. But again,
yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, you got to be careful with using that because you are pretty vulnerable. I mean, you're getting into the mech. You can pretty much easily take her out if you have the damage.
And the ult charges do save. So if you had like 50% self-destructed, then you popped out. You know, next time you go in the mech form, whether it's at the graveyard or you called it, you'll still have the same ult charge.
Right, and that's another thing. I mean, it may not be viable for every situation, but if you're really close to your starting point, you know, in the back where you spawn, you can actually run right back in there, you know, change characters right back, and then change right back to D.Va, and you'll have your mech again.
Another thing to point out is, I was going to say something, I forgot. It was really important. It's about our ultimate. All right, let's get into the discussion.
Yeah, we'll break down the discussion. Maybe
I'll remember it.
I'll remember
it. I promise.
So as we always state, first and foremost, play to your strengths. It's one of the biggest things people need to pay attention to. Every character is vastly different. You don't want to just hop in and play them exactly the way you play every character, and she is, again, exactly that way. She's a very high mobility tank. She works really well at close range. She's not really great at far range unless you're able to be in her pilot form. So again, she moves around really well. You want to pair that with her defense matrix. She's one of the best in the game at being able to help her team push through certain close quarters. You're just able to boost right in, pull up your defense matrix, and you can get your team in there really safely. So
I remembered. So when you're in your mech and you have your ultimate and your mech's gonna die, you still have like a grace period where when she's hopping out, where you could actually use your ultimate.
Right,
and as long as you didn't eat too much Doritos, and you can still get out real quick, right? Yeah, all natural Doritos. So even though you die, you kind of like push the detonation button on your way out, and if that's, I mean, obviously if you don't want to waste it, you know, so you just get back in your mech and you'll still have that ult if you don't use it.
But if you're in a situation where, i.e., you might be dying or there's a lot of people around you, it might be beneficial just to pop it anyway, because it definitely will clear out the area really quickly, and you don't have to worry about the blast when you're ejecting. So another thing that you actually made me think of is that you're actually able to kind of control the which way you eject out of the mech suit. So another thing to keep in mind, you can kind of angle it back and out of the way. On default, she's going to eject directly backwards away from the mech, but you can actually kind of, right as you're ejecting, control a little bit of the direction in which she ejects.
Right, so we talked a little bit about using mobility, taking advantage of that. Obviously, map awareness is going to increase your performance with her knowing little shortcuts, how you can cut things off. Getting those environmental deaths, booping people off. So one thing, I don't know if it's in show notes, but what I like to do, right, is you charge somebody. We talked about doing damage, right? You shift someone, and you can cancel it. I used to right-click, actually, kind of often to cancel. You can't do it anymore because it's Matrix. Right. But you can still cancel it, it's fine. You just push shift again. Or what I like to do is you melee, right? So the proper way of... Because with D.Va, it's all about getting in their face, right? It's like Winston. You play kind of like Winston. You go straight to the back line, whether it's a Widowmaker or Hanzo. A lot of times it's a Zenyatta, a healer or something. You just go in the back line. You're very disruptive. You have a lot of health. You have armor. And when you're charging, that does 25 damage, but if you time your melee, she just swings a little mechanical arm, that does damage as well. So you get like a double damage dip. Now you're in their face. You're perfect. You want to left click, spam them in the head if they're still alive.
Right, so yeah, she is one of those characters. She plays really in your face. So it's definitely how you want to play her. You want to be real up close. Again, you want to play with that armor. You have armor. Most of your health, 400 of it, is armor. And we've talked previously how armor works. It's really good against burst, damage in short bursts and do very small amounts. So against like tracers and such, she's really good against. So you're able to get in there, get in the back line, take out the healers, the flankers, and such. You have that right click for your defense matrix to deal with any like major ults or any major abilities and stuff like that. You can help get your team in there as well. And again, basically, you just want to make sure that you're playing really up close with her and you're just really aware of the map. The map will help you out in so many different ways to move around and such. She plays very much like a flanking tank in that way.
Right, and the changes with her matrix allow her to perform her role a lot better, which is why we're seeing more D.Va, especially in the competitive scene, right? So you're actually able to protect allies, people. When you do the matrix, it projects a matrix in front of your character, and what's happening is she's shooting down all the projectiles, right?
Right.
You can see her little thumbs moving like super fast, and she's shooting them out of the air. Now you're able to project that over people, so even if like a friendly Zenyatta's in front of you, or even like a Bastion that's stationary, you could protect him from behind. You're not obscuring their view, and like you're able to get in position. We talked about Genji kind of using his reflect to, you're able to get in position while you're using that ability. So the Matrix allows you to do the same thing.
Right, yeah. It really allows you to move around the map and to get through tight areas and help your team as well in that way. And one of the other things I kind of wanted to touch on, you were talking about using her shift boosters to actually go through and actually do damage by hitting people, by, knocking them back. But you can actually go through multiple people. So if multiple people are lined up in a very short, let's say, alleyway and such, you're actually able to do damage to all of them. So if they're in a line... It's a really good way to take damage out on a lot of people. So
right, we talked a little bit about it, but you can self-destruct and just drop your mech where you're at. But obviously that's no fun, right? It's fun when you rocket boost your ultimate in a group of people.
Not only is it no fun, but you're probably not going to catch a lot of people if you just walk up, sit down, get out of your mech.
It depends. I mean, if there's a Zarya all right on top of you, I mean, you could just drop it on top of them.
That's a different situation. But
it could happen. But yeah, a lot of times you want a moving, exploding mech, and I used to lob them up in the air, like I said, because there's a 4-second detonation. It'd be kind of like, oh, where's it at? And it does give a global kind of warning. It goes through walls and everything. Everybody, like to the opponents and everybody, could actually see it. But a lot of times you get verticality on, it's over their heads. They won't have time to react. But now I find myself actually just shooting it, horizontally,
right forward. Yeah,
just shoot it forward and detonate it.
Right. So yeah, you definitely want to think about how you're using her ultimate ability. It is a big ultimate. It's a huge AOE. It does a lot of damage, and again, at the very least, it can definitely clear out an area. And that's usually the way you want to use it, unless you're pairing it with another ultimate. Is you want to make sure that you're using it close to whatever your objective is, either the payload or the point, to make it real easy for your team to kind of come in and take over the dominant position and allow you to set up some kind of a front.
Right, and she's lots of fun to play.
I mean, ever since the changes, I think she's a lot better off. I think before, like we said, we weren't seeing a lot of D.Vas, and it was just because her ultimate was just kind of ridiculous to kill anybody. I mean, anybody who died with that, it had to be paired with another ult to be able to kill anybody. And on top of that, she just really felt kind of out of place with the way the previous defense matrix worked.
Yeah, she definitely used to have the worst ultimate in the game, pretty much hands down, and now it's, in line with other people's.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely used a lot different. Some ultimates do a lot more damage. Some ultimates are going to get a lot more kills and such. And some ultimates are just used objectively. And this is one of those ults that does a really good job of what it's supposed to do, at least.
Yeah, and the Matrix, we could touch a little bit about it, but it pretty much it shuts down everything that the Reflex did from last show, right? We're talking about Genji.
Right.
Pretty much all the same exact things that you're able to reflect.
Projectiles and such, any kind of projectile ults, it's going to eat up any Zarya. It's going to eat up, Well,
not all Zarya, right? So Zarya's
yeah,
left
I'm sorry.
click.
Just her regular actual ball that she shoots, or her ultimate, it will eat up as well.
Right.
It's not going to eat
like
her
Mei's
right
left click, you're not going to be able to matrix that.
Right, yeah, you won't be able to matrix that. You're not going to be able to matrix like a Reinhardt's E and such stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's basically going to eat up.
You can do Reinhardt E. You can do Reinhardt E.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. You can do Reinhardt E.
Maybe not a big swinging hammer, though.
Yeah, you're not going to eat the ult is what I was trying to, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No projectile there.
Yeah, definitely not.
Just
so, projectiles mainly.
Okay. Yeah, and super fun to play. If you haven't played her, hopefully you are more comfortable now. Give her a shot. Go in quick play. Who cares about quick play? You don't have to win. That's where I go.
Right. I mean, it's perfect now. I mean, we talked about it previously with without having competitive play. We were all in, quick play trying to be all super serious. But now it's super fun to just go in there and mess around. So, definitely go take her for a spin, check her out, see how you like her. Hopefully we'll see a lot more D.Va in coming tournaments and such.
Right, and when I get a good D.Va on my team, you could tell. I mean, I don't see very many of them. Most people aren't very good, but when you have a good D.Va, let me tell you, it's a godsend, and it's really good. And you can point them out.
She's one of those heroes where, like, you can get a soldier in your team or a Pharah or and they're super easy characters to kind of jump in and play, and you can't really. It's harder to tell who's good or not.
Straightforward, yeah.
Yeah, so she's definitely not that way. She's definitely a fun character to play. She's not super hard, but she is definitely plays a little bit differently, and definitely obvious to tell who is good.
I think a lot of people relate to characters that way. They like players, right? They have the little niches. They have little subtle things about them. I mean, I know I like that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes the different heroes is their little subtleties, and that's what we love talking about here. So who are we going to be covering next week?
I think our next hero will be determined by our listeners again.
All right.
They could write us, and we'll give them the contact info. It'll be in the show notes and everything. But we'll have our listeners. Someone that we haven't covered already yet. You could look in our past episodes.
Right,
so there's a good amount we haven't covered yet.
Yeah, there's quite a few we haven't covered. I mean, there's Anna still that we haven't covered. There's Junkrat we haven't covered.
We covered Anna.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we did cover Anna. I don't know what I'm thinking. So Junkrat, there's quite a few. But write us in, give us an idea who you would like us to cover next week, and maybe we'll be talking about your hero. So again, that's going to do it all for us on this show. Thanks again for listening. See you guys next week, and feel free to write us.
Right. So thank you so much for all the people who have, took the time to write us, whether that's on Twitter or email. We love to hear. We write you guys all back, and it's awesome. So you can contact us at aheroeswelcomepodcast@gmail.com, and we're on Twitter at 2 Moon Studios, and that's, who brings you this show today.
And I think that's going to do it all for us. Thanks again. Till next time.